We will stop the radical indoctrination of our students and restore patriotic education to our schools.
American history is no fairy tale. It's been a constant push and pull between the two parts of our character. The idea that all men and women, all people are created equal, and the racism that has torn us apart.
There's a battle over the history of America. Much of the rioting in the streets has constituted a war on America as founded. Statues of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Teddy Roosevelt have been torn down by the mobs. Even Abraham Lincoln has not escaped their wrath. And now, to add fuel to the fire, comes a recent project by the New York Times and the Pulitzer Group to promote what critics call a distorted view of American history, the 1619 Project.
If you want to remake America, you've got to tear down belief in the country we have now. You have to make the country we have now and the founding fathers and our institutions illegitimate. That's what the 1619 Project is about with the New York Times, saying that America was founded in 1619 when the first African-American slaves appeared on the North American coast.
The idea of the 1619 Project is that America is defined by the slavery experience. Indeed, the lead writer of the 1619 Project stated, quote, "Anti-black racism runs in the very DNA of this country."
We were founded in 1776, but you see, they want to make America an illegitimate project, contaminated by slavery from the very beginning. Slavery defined everything, which it did not. And historians like my old professor at Princeton, James McPherson, have just been ripping them up one side and down the other, said this isn't history, it's propaganda. But it's now being taught as curriculum in schools. And I think that at least at some level, some of them feel that if you're going to remake America into something different, you have to delegitimize the America that is.
It's very problematic because a lot of our young people are being taught that America is an evil country. It's an oppressive country, and that is not true American history. The remarkable thing about America is that it had an Emancipation Proclamation. Slavery has been throughout mankind's history. And so slavery was not original to America, but what was original was that America had an Emancipation Proclamation. Trillions of dollars have been invested in trying to erase the effects of slavery.
Historians note that the founders created the framework by which slavery could one day be uprooted, which it was. About 700,000 Americans died in the Civil War, which ended slavery. Responding to the 1619 Project, a number of scholars, including African Americans, have proposed a counter-project, one that dates America's true founding as 1776. That's the year we declared independence from Great Britain and dependence upon the Creator. Reverend Dean Nelson is one of these scholars from 1776 Unites.
And I feel like that the 1619 Project, through its curriculums that they're trying to place in schools and other things, really is contrary to the true narrative. As you look over my shoulder at that picture of Frederick Douglass was one who was a slave, but overcame and challenged America, both black and white, to live up to America's high standards. We believe that the initiative that has been launched, that's referred to as the 1776 Unites, and you can visit 1776unite.com, has a much more positive and honest portrayal of America and its history.
And as far as the 1619 Project, one of the statements was made that is, in effect, they're saying that racism is in America's DNA. Well, if it's in America's DNA, then we can never hope to get better.
1619 Project discusses the victimization side, but not the millions of stories of triumph and overcoming. So I don't really buy into the idea that it is in our DNA. It may have been part of the founding of our country, but at the same time, there were Americans who really committed themselves to seeing slavery eradicated. My hope is that we'll see much more traction from 1776 Unites by telling the positive stories of how we have overcome. Because if we don't have stories of hope, if we don't have illustrations and examples of people who have overcome, then it's a state of perpetual hopelessness.
Another scholar directly opposing the 1619 Project is retired Vanderbilt law professor Dr. Carol Swain.
We call ourselves 1776 Unites because we're trying to bring people together. We believe, in this nation that we are all, brothers and sisters, and that America, despite its flaws, is the greatest country, in the world. And the poorest black is so far better off than blacks in so many other nations and most nations. And so to be born in America is something that people don't realize the value of what they have. And it's very dismaying when you see black college students saying that they need safe spaces because of white racism and white oppression. I mean, really? I mean, it's ridiculous when you think about all the great accomplishments that blacks have had.
The 1776 scholars are not the only ones objecting to the 1619 Project. In October, a group of scholars called upon the Pulitzer Prize Board to revoke writer Nicole Hannah Jones' prize for her 1619 Project lead essay for falsely claiming that the primary motive for the American Revolution was to preserve slavery.
Well, I think it was Karl Marx who said that if you can take people's history away from them, you can manipulate them.
A lot of people act like they're ashamed of America, ashamed of its past. Imperfect? Of course it is. People were involved, and therefore it's imperfect because people are imperfect. But we've gotten better. The thing I would urge people to remember is that history is to a culture what the memory is to an individual. If one day I wake up and I've lost all my memory and I have amnesia and I don't know who I am, where I live, who these people are in my house, I'm very lost. My world is chaos. So it is if a culture doesn't know its history. It's lost its collective memory, and as a result, we'll be living in chaos. I think the degree to which we have forgotten our history or abandoned it is the degree to which we're living in chaos today.